When you want to accelerate, the feeling of breaking the shot at the end must be more pronounced. It means the harder I hit, the more my shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand must work together to abruptly stop the motion after acceleration, like a crisp salute. Today, let's break down the backhand rip. The backhand rip is the equivalent of your forehand topspin loop against a topspin ball. I don't recommend practicing a full backhand loop against topspin. It's a difficult technique to master and you can easily get jammed in rallies. For the backhand rip, there are several key points to understand. It's very different from a backhand drive, starting with the height of your backswing. A backhand drive starts at your navel, but a backhand rip starts higher, around your stomach area. The most critical element of the backhand rip is generating friction. To create friction, especially against topspin, you must brush the middle to upper part of the ball, as its trajectory after the bounce will be high. Therefore, you must raise your hand and keep your racket angle closed as you rip forward. Pros always raise their hand when ripping because to generate power and keep the ball on the table, you absolutely must contact the upper half of the ball. The second key point is the direction of your force. Should the backhand rip be more forward or more upward? A drive has an upward component, but the rip is almost entirely forward. Watch my forearm closely. The principle is the same for both shakehand and penhold grips. Some of you might say the ball will go into the net without an upward motion. Hitting the net isn't because of your forward swing, it's caused by an incorrect follow-through. The third key point, the most important joint in the backhand rip, is your elbow. The reason pros keep their elbow up is that it allows for the fastest possible forearm swing speed. If your elbow moves with the swing, it will slow your forearm, cause instability in your arm, and make your racket angle inconsistent. This leads to unforced errors when you try to accelerate at high speed. So, you must keep your elbow positioned. This ensures maximum forearm speed and the best racket stability. Your elbow should be about chest height, not too high, not too low. For players who stand closer to the table, like many female players, keep your hand higher. If you're ripping from mid-distance, you can lower your backswing to your stomach area. From mid-distance, starting too high will cause you to brush the ball too thinly, resulting in a net ball. So, from mid-distance, your starting point should be similar to a backhand drive, around your navel. If you play close to the table, start the rip from your stomach area. This is an important distinction. The further you are from the table, the lower your hand. This applies to the forehand as well. Further back, lower backswing, closer in, higher backswing. Don't be rigid with this rule. In a match, if you're pushed back, using the close to the table technique will cause you to hit the net because the contact is too thin. From further back, you need more impact. By lowering your hand, you naturally incorporate more forward drive. Remember this difference. Fifth key point, what should the racket angle be for a backhand rip? Should it be closed or open? Correct, it should always be in a closed position. Now let me explain a common mistake amateur players make. Throughout the entire backhand rip motion, your racket face must remain consistent and closed. The problem many players have is an unstable racket face. When you're ripping softly, the difference isn't obvious, but as soon as you add power, these technical flaws will cause a lot of errors. For the backhand rip, remember, from your backswing, through contact, to the end of your follow-through, the racket angle must remain closed. Avoid any flipping of the racket face, excessive wrist snapping, or changes in your blade angle, as this will lead to errors when you increase power. So, during the backswing, at impact, and at the finish, your racket angle should stay consistent. This is the rule for topspin rallies. Once your racket angle is stable, let's talk about friction. This is the hardest part of the rip. Many players think they are ripping, but in reality, it's just a bigger version of their backhand drive. I'll hit 3 balls for you. See if you can tell which one I brushed better. The first, the second, the third, the first, the second, the third. Excellent, it was the third one. Let me ask you a question, which is harder, hitting flat or generating friction? Is it more difficult to make a loud "pock" sound from impact, or to brush the ball and make it spin? I think it's the friction. Friction is definitely harder. Friction requires real skill. Look at experienced players. The reason they are so good is their mastery of friction, whether in their pushes, serves, soft touches, or high, loopy topspins. So, how do we generate that friction? I'll teach you a drill. Don't try to do the full motion at once, that will take too long to learn. Here's how to practice. To get the feeling of the rubber gripping the ball, don't rip it over the net. Instead, rip it so it bounces first on your side of the table. Practice the friction part of the stroke just like this. If you just swing forward, you won't know if you're hitting or brushing. So when the ball comes, focus on getting this feeling first. Focus on gripping the ball. Make the first bounce land on your side. This drill is purely for developing friction. In a proper backhand loop or rip, the pure friction component of the stroke doesn't have enough power to clear the net. It's the same with serves. A truly pure brushing motion is very light and won't go over the net. That's real friction. It's impossible to generate maximum friction and forward power at the exact same time. True friction means it won't clear the net. On top of that feeling, you add a little forward motion from your arm, and that's how you get a successful rip. At contact, you're using your fingers to grip the ball. The brushing motion itself is very small, just a tiny movement. Then, your arm provides the power for the follow-through. This is the support coming from your forearm, upper arm, and elbow after the initial contact. But the moment of contact is just a small brushing motion. That's all it is. There's no big, sweeping movement. The reason many players hit the ball long when they add power is that they are flicking their wrist and paddle at contact, which makes the swing unfocused. The motion needs to be this compact. Only after making this sharp contact can you accelerate forward. You must first grip the ball. Once you have a hold of it, then you can apply power. The process for the backhand rip is, during your backswing, cock your wrist inward slightly, so the racket tip points toward you. The racket tip must point towards you with a slight internal rotation. Maintain this shape as you approach the ball. At the moment of contact, there's a slight acceleration of the racket head, generated by your fingers. After that acceleration, your forearm follows through. It's that simple. Now, watch my forearm move forward. Does my wrist move independently? It might look like I'm using my wrist the whole time, but that's not the case. I prepare, find the ball, and after contact, my forearm rotation is what brings the racket through. It's not the wrist leading the forearm. The shot is not flicked. After I make frictional contact, my forearm brings the racket through, and the stroke is complete. So why do you hit the ball long when you add power? It's because when your forearm should be tensing and accelerating, your wrist becomes loose. Keep your wrist stable and firm. Let your forearm drive the change in racket angle, rather than letting your wrist flap around, and the ball will land on the table. Next, let's discuss the active rip versus the counter rip. An active rip is when you have to generate your own power, like when your opponent blocks or drives the ball to you. For an active rip, you contact the ball at the peak of its bounce. The biggest differences compared to a counter rip are the backswing and the size of the motion. For an active rip, first, find the peak of the bounce. Second, take a slightly larger backswing, bringing your forearm back closer to your body. Third, you must have a very complete and powerful forearm follow-through. This is the active rip. A counter rip is used when your opponent attacks with pace, a smash, a power shot, or their own rip. This is when you borrow their power. When counter ripping, the key is not to pull your arm back too far. Keep it in front of your body. The active rip starts back here, while the counter rip starts out here. When counter ripping, focus on a short external forearm rotation. Keep your wrist and upper arm stable. The motion is very compact, and you must contact the ball on the rise. This is a counter rip. This is an active rip. You can only borrow power when the incoming ball has high quality and pace. If the incoming ball is slow or soft, trying to counter rip will feel powerless and you'll likely hit the net. So, you must adapt. If the opponent's shot is weak, use an active rip with a higher backswing and more forearm power. If their shot is high quality, a powerful forehand or backhand, or even a loop, you can counter-rip it. Just make sure to get your hand up, contact the ball on the rise, and keep your motion compact. Just like this. The motion must be very small. You have to intercept the ball. Professional players predominantly use the counter-rip because at their level, every ball in a rally is high quality. If you play a soft shot, your opponent will attack it fiercely. However, amateur players should practice the active rip more. After your opening loop, your opponent will likely block or push it back, rather than counter-looping like a pro. After their block, you have the perfect opportunity for an active rip. If you can master both the active rip and the counter rip, your backhand will be incredibly solid. The core mechanics are similar. The differences are in timing, rising versus high point, motion size, small versus large, and backswing position, front versus back. But all the other technical principles are the same. Now, let's cover the most critical concept in any technique: breaking, or follow-through control. The reason breaking is so crucial is that it's the main cause for many players hitting the ball long. Most players who hit the ball off the end of the table do so because their swing path is too long. For example, using 50% power, if I stop my swing here, the ball lands. But if I extend my swing to here, even with the same power, the ball goes long. The issue is that you are stopping your motion too late. You should be stopping here, but you're letting the swing go all the way to here. The foundation of every shot is its technical framework. Within that framework, you must learn to feel the ball. Close to the table with medium power, my swing must stop here to keep the ball in. Any further and it's out. From mid to long distance, that same stroke won't clear the net. You have to adjust the length of your follow-through based on your court position. When I'm close to the table, I practice feeling where to stop my swing to be both powerful and consistent. Then in a match, I know my stopping point from that position. When I'm at mid-distance, I know the shorter swing isn't enough. I need to follow through more. So I establish my stopping point for that distance. If I'm pushed far back, a mid-distance follow-through will go into the net. I know I have to extend my swing all the way to here to get the ball over. By doing this, you develop a clear standard for every position. If you use the same swing for everything, you'll be inconsistent and blame your equipment, thinking you need a new rubber or blade when you're just not adjusting. The more power you use, the more you must brace and stop your follow-through. When you want to accelerate, the feeling of breaking the shot at the end must be more pronounced. It's not just about gripping the racket tighter, it's about bracing your joints. What is bracing your joints? It means the harder I hit, the more my shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand must work together to abruptly stop the motion after acceleration. Like a crisp salute. You can't have a sloppy, loose finish. Be like a soldier. After generating force, your motion must come to a hard stop. Breaking the motion like this ensures your force is directed accurately. The slightest bit of wobble in your follow-through will send the ball flying. So, the more you want to accelerate, the more solid your contact needs to be. By solid, I don't mean hitting flat. I mean you cannot allow the racket face to waver at all, because if your joints are loose, your racket face will be too. You need a truly stable contact through the ball. Do not allow any wobble during impact or brushing. The ball is extremely light. The slightest instability will cause your powerful shots to miss. Therefore, the more you accelerate, the more you must grip and brace at the end of the stroke. Brace your joints, and grip the racket.